Series of we're meeting local business owners, and I'm here with Rachel, and Rachel is from Well Read Proofreading Services. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you, Ruth. How are you?
I'm good. Now, apparently you're a little bit nervous.
Just a little. Not used to doing sort of thing.
You will be fine. So, for those people that don't know about you and maybe what you do you just want to explain a little about the service that you offer?
Yes, Well Read Proofreading does what it says on the tin. I'm a proofreader. I'm trained through the Chartered Institute of Editing and Proofreading. And yes, that's what I do. I try to make people's writing the best that it can be before it's published or submitted for examination.
Fantastic. So you also help, because you help obviously people with dissertations, and you might help people with their books being published or an article maybe being submitted. You also do some commercial work. So you would, for example, help people with their website content and ensuring that reads correctly and that kind of thing.
Yes, I recently proofread a website for a client. It was a brand new company and English was not the owner's first language. So I suggested that you write what you wanted to put on the website, and I would then amend it so that it was more appropriate English. And she was very happy with the result. I've also done some company documentation. People have been revamping their company documents during the lockdown, and I've done some letters and other work for local clients as well.
So really you take the anxiousness really and the nerves out of that kind of, oh my God, I've got to write some stuff. So it's almost, I suppose, taking what somebody wants to say and making that, as you say, the best it can be for people.
Absolutely. I aim to give clients peace of mind that their writing really is as good as it can be, that the spelling, the grammar, the punctuation is all as it should be. I do like to maintain the author's voice. That's very important to me. That's part of my training. So I don't just transform writing into BBC English all the time. Dialect, accents, all of that sort of thing. It's very important to keep that so that the work is still the author's writing.
Yeah, that's really important, isn't it? Because that's the authenticity about that work, isn't it? That
absolutely
reflects that person. Yeah, absolutely. And how long have you been in this kind of a role? What got you into this role?
I'm a perfectionist by nature. I have great attention to detail, and it lends itself naturally to proofreading. I was first asked a few years ago to proofread a friend's PhD thesis, of all things, and I thoroughly enjoyed doing it. And so at the beginning of 2019, that's when I began my training, and I set up my business last year in 2020.
And how's it been to be a business owner, and also during some rather testing times, we would probably refer to the current situation as?
Yes, I was, like many business owners, I was extremely concerned about the pandemic, the lockdown situation. It's been very interesting. Clients have been writing during lockdown. Some have been writing fiction. I've proofread an illustrated storybook for a local author. As I mentioned before, I've proofread a website and some company documentation for various local businesses. And most of the work that I've proofread this far has actually been written during the lockdown.
And you mentioned briefly about things like assignments or dissertations and things. So you'll also help people that are studying then as well, I expect.
Yes, I'm on the register of approved proofreaders at Lancaster University and a couple of other universities as well. I specialise in proofreading master's dissertations and PhD theses primarily. Quite often the author's English is not their first language, so I can help them with that before they submit it for examination. The same with the PhD theses. It's not just students though that I proofread for. I have proofread for an academic up at the university. Her writing was very good. It barely needed proofreading, but what she needed me to do was to match it to the house style of the journal that she was going to submit it to. That was very important, because otherwise it would have had an automatic rejection from the journal. So I was happy to do that for her. That was quite a lot of intense work, but a really enjoyable assignment for me.
So this is quite interesting, because you'll get exposure to all types of different topics and research and things that, well, you're seeing them pre-publication, aren't you, as well? So you really do get that access to things before they are seen by the wider public as well.
Yes, you're absolutely right. It is quite exciting seeing as yet unpublished material. One of my clients is keeping me informed, actually. Her book is about to go through publication, so I'm hoping to get a copy of that when it comes through. But yes, it is really exciting to see things before they're published.
Yeah, amazing. Yes. Amazing. So in terms of what are you most proud of, do you think, about what you've managed to achieve in the last kind of 12, 18 months? What do you think springs to mind?
When I return a piece of client's work to them, I know hand on heart that that piece of writing is the best that it can be. Even if they ask me to do a job fairly quickly, and I was recently asked to do something in 24 hours, hand on heart, I literally cannot do any more when I return that work to the client. I get my job satisfaction out of that, but it's very important to me to know that the client is getting the very, very best service from me.
And I know people have had your work and then they've referred you to other people as well, haven't they? So that must be a really nice thing to have happen, that people are so pleased that they're referring you on to other people as well.
It is, yes. Yes, that's the icing on the cake. Yeah. Yes, that's good.
So what kind of testimonials have you had back? What kind of feedback have you had then from some of the work?
I've got one here. May I read it out to you?
Yeah, absolutely. That'd be great.
Lovely. Now this is from a local business, TP Financial Services. They say, we recently asked Rachel to proofread an approach letter for us. She was fabulous, very thorough, very reasonably priced, and very quick. Well Read Proofreading Services provide a fantastic professional service. Thank you, and we look forward to working with you in the future. So that, I was really pleased with that.
I bet you will be very proud of that. That's fabulous. That's a fabulous endorsement, isn't it?
I hope so, yes.
Yeah,
yes.
Absolutely.
One of my favourite comments that I get from clients is when they say, wow, I would never have spotted that. I go through their work, you know, people have put a double space in somewhere and I pick up on it. That's what I'm trained to pick up on. And my favourite comment is, wow, I would never have spotted that.
And I think as well, when you're writing something as the person who's been almost so immersed in it over a period of time, you do go a bit blind, because you almost read what you intended to write more often than what you actually have written, I think, sometimes. And
yes,
that bit, but, you know, not just the second pair of eyes, but then the second pair of eyes with your professionalism that not only spots it, but knows the best way to make that better and put it right as well.
Yes. In one of the PhD theses I proofread, my client had pulled an Excel spreadsheet through into her Word document, and she just assumed that it was fine. And of course, I'm trained to check everything. And because it was such a large graph, the system had pulled out every other label to the columns, and she just hadn't seen it. There was only half the wording there. So that was an absolute red flag comment. I emailed that client straight away about that one, that it couldn't be submitted with that.
And of course, that will have saved her, you know, well, that will have, it would have prevented a very different outcome had that have got in with that fault as well. Absolutely.
Quite possibly, yes.
Yeah.
And what you were saying about people's intended meaning, and they read what they think they mean. I did a call on one. It was a book, fiction. The second sentence of the book, I knew what she meant to say, but she actually worded it as something different. And she said, I would never have picked up on that. It's so important to have a fresh pair of eyes on your work. It really is.
Absolutely. And a qualified expert pair of eyes as well. Really important.
Quite possibly.
You're far too humble.
I try my best. That's all I can do.
So if somebody, Rachel, having watched this, wants to get into contact with you, I mean, if somebody comes and they just want to chat about what might be some, what might you may be able to help them with, are you happy for that to happen as well?
Yes, in fact, I have already carried out a number of Zoom calls because obviously we can't have a cup of coffee with somebody in lockdown. So I've had a couple of Zoom calls with clients. They just wanted to talk through the proofreading process. Many people are not familiar with what actually happens, how it all works. And I'm more than happy to have a conversation with people. And I've got 2 authors who are now finishing their books and hopefully will come back to me once they've finished them.
Brilliant.
But yes. An outline of the proofreading process can be found on my services page on my website. It's just literally bullet points of how the process works, and it just kind of simplifies it for people and familiarises them with what actually happens and makes it less daunting. It's really not a frightening process.
Fantastic. So if somebody would like to contact you, what's the best way for people to contact you?
Probably via email. My email address is Rachel, RACHEL, .Gristwood, GRISTwood @gmail.com. It's helpful if the client provides me with a sample of their writing. That way I can identify how much work there is needed on it. And what I do is I provide a free 2-page proofread of their work and mark up the suggested amendments. Then I email that through to the client. There's absolutely no obligation to go ahead, but the client will see how I mark up the corrections and see if they're comfortable working with that.
That's brilliant. And do you have a website people can visit? You mentioned it's on the services page, so can we give the website address?
Yes, it's www.wellreadproofreading.co.uk. The .co.uk at the end is very important. There is an American proofreader with a similar website. The .co.uk proves that I proofread in British English, not American English. That's important to me.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a pleasure to chat to you.
And to you. Thank you very much for doing this.
You're welcome. And I will look forward to seeing you soon.
That's lovely. Thank you, Ruth.
Thanks.
Take care. Bye.